He's the strongest. That's what Honky Tonk Man said. But when he starts naming names, things get wild. These aren't legends made in the ring. They're the men who could really hurt you. The men who made even the loudest mouths go quiet. The ones who could break you before the bell even rang. Roy Wayne Ferris became famous as the Honky Tonk Man. He held the Intercontinental Championship for 454 days. That's the longest reign in the title's history. But here's the twist. His whole character was built on being a coward. He ran from fights, he cheated to keep his belt, he hid behind his manager Jimmy Hart. Every single night, the Honky Tonk Man played the weakest man in the room. But off-screen, something different happened. After he left the ring, Ferris became known as a straight shooter. That's wrestling talk for someone who tells the truth. Someone who doesn't play games. Someone who says what really happened backstage. And when a man like that starts naming the toughest wrestlers he ever met, you better pay attention. See, Honky Tonk Man didn't just work in the bright lights of the WWF. He came up through the territories. Places like Memphis. Places like Stampede Wrestling in Calgary. These weren't TV shows with scripts and safety nets. These were rough places where toughness wasn't an act. It was survival. Stampede was run by Stu Hart. In that world, if you couldn't handle yourself, you didn't last. You got hurt or you got out. So when Ferris moved to the WWF in the mid-80s, he brought that perspective with him. He could tell the difference. He knew who was playing tough and who actually was tough. He knew which men could really fight and which ones just looked good on camera. And that knowledge kept him alive in a dangerous business. Here's the dark irony of his career. The more he played a coward, the more he needed real threats around him. Think about it. If everyone watching believes the champion is weak, you need challengers who look like they could destroy him. You need men who make the audience believe the belt is in danger. So every night, Honky Tonk Man surrounded himself with the scariest people in wrestling. Men like Randy Savage, men like Jake Roberts, men who hit hard and didn't always pull their punches. His 454-day title run only worked because of them. The more intimidating his challengers were, the more dramatic the chase became. Every time he dodged a fight, every time he cheated to win, it built tension. But that tension came at a cost. He had to work with men who terrified him, men he knew could hurt him if they wanted to, men he respected because their toughness was real. And that's what makes his list so interesting. When Honky Tonk Man names the 10 toughest wrestlers, he's not guessing. He's not going by what he saw on TV. He's telling you which men he feared, which men commanded respect in the locker room, which men could back up their reputation with violence. This isn't about who had the best matches or the biggest muscles. This is about who could really fight. The WWF in the 1980s was a strange place. It was becoming an entertainment company, cartoon characters, bright colors, stories for kids. But underneath all that show business, there were still real fighters. Men who came from legitimate backgrounds, men who settled problems with their fists, men who didn't care about ratings or merchandise. And those men made the whole thing work. Because without them, without that edge of danger, it all would have felt fake. Honky Tonk Man knew this better than anyone. He was the fake part, the show, the act. But the men he's about to name, they were the reason people believed the show. They were the reason fans thought someone might actually take that belt from him. They were the glue between performance and reality. So who were these men? Who did Honky Tonk Man fear most? Let's find out. But don't expect heroes. Don't expect clean stories. These are tales of violence, intimidation, and the kind of toughness that doesn't care about applause. Number 10, Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant makes this list for one simple reason: his size. 7 feet 4 inches tall, over 500 pounds. When Andre walked into a room, everything changed. You couldn't fight Andre, not really. He was too big, too strong. If he wanted to hurt you, he just would. There was no technique that worked, no strategy. You just hoped Andre liked you, hoped he was in a good mood, hoped you never gave him a reason to be angry. Honky Tonk Man talked about who Andre liked and didn't like. Andre apparently didn't enjoy working with Jake Roberts. There were others too. Wrestlers who annoyed him, who rubbed him wrong. And if you were on Andre's bad side, your life got harder. In the ring, Andre controlled everything just by existing. He couldn't move fast. He wasn't going to do flips or complicated holds, but he didn't need to. His presence was enough. One hand could cover your entire head. One push could send you flying. He was a giant, and giants don't need technique. That creates psychological toughness. Everyone around Andre had to adjust to him, had to work his style, had to accept that he set the rules. Because what were you going to do? Fight him? You'd lose. Complain? Nobody would care. Andre was Andre, and that was that. For Honky Tonk Man, Andre represented inevitability. If Andre decided to do something, it happened. If Andre wanted to make you look bad in a match, you looked bad. If Andre wanted to protect you, you were safe. All power rested in his hands. That's a form of toughness that doesn't require violence. It's dominance through existence, through being so physically overwhelming that resistance is pointless. Andre didn't need to prove anything. His body proved it for him, and everyone Everyone, including Honky Tonk Man, understood that. Number 9. Dr. Death Steve Williams. Dr. Death Steve Williams represents the pinnacle of collegiate wrestling legitimacy entering professional ranks. Williams was an elite amateur wrestler for the University of Oklahoma and was known for his rugged powerhouse style. Although Williams's career peaked slightly later than Honky Tonk Man's primary WWF run, Honky Tonk Man, as a historian and straight shooter, recognized Williams' undisputed athletic toughness and verifiable pedigree. Williams was the heavy favorite going into the WWF's Brawl for All tournament. That tournament was designed to test real fighting ability. No scripts, no predetermined winners. Just wrestlers actually competing, and everyone expected Williams to dominate. That expectation came from his amateur background, from his reputation as a legitimate tough guy. He didn't win. Things didn't go as planned, but the fact that he was the favorite tells you everything. His peers respected his ability, knew his credentials, understood that in a real fight, Williams had advantages most wrestlers didn't. Williams represents the final type of toughness, athletic legitimacy, the kind you can't fake, the kind that comes from years of real competition, from winning matches against other trained athletes, from proving yourself in environments where losing means something. For Honky Tonk Man, that legitimacy mattered more than anything, more than muscles, more than looks, more than promos. If you could really wrestle, really fight, really compete, you earned respect. And Williams checked every box. His inclusion shows how Honky Tonk Man thinks. He respects verified ability over spectacle, facts over fiction, real credentials over manufactured toughness, and Williams had the credentials. The University of Oklahoma pedigree, the amateur wrestling success, the proven track record, that's the foundation of true toughness. Not stories, not legends, but verified, documented, proven ability. Number 8, bad news, Brown. Bad news. Brown brings legitimate credentials to this list. Real fighting credentials, Olympic credentials. He won a bronze medal in judo at the 1976 Olympics. That's not wrestling training, that's martial arts, real combat sports, verified toughness. Honky Tonk Man actually wrestled Brown in Stampede. He even beat him for the Stampede North American Heavyweight Championship in 1986. So he knew firsthand what Brown was capable of, knew his legitimate background, knew he wasn't playing tough. But here's what makes Brown's story sad. Honky Tonk Man believed the WWF wasted him. He thought Brown should have been world champion, that his real fighting ability and intimidating persona deserved more. But the WWF was moving toward cartoon characters, toward entertainment, and Brown didn't fit that mold. Brown had a convincing demeanor. He looked tough because he was tough. He moved like a fighter because he was a fighter. Everything about him was legitimate, and in the old territorial system, that would have made him a top star. But in the new WWF, it just made him another mid-card guy. Honky Tonk Man's respect for Brown shows his values. He valued real ability, real credentials, real toughness, and he was frustrated when the company didn't reward those things. When they pushed guys with better looks or better gimmicks instead of guys who could actually fight. Brown represents what wrestling was losing, the transition from sport to show, from fighters to performers, from legitimacy to spectacle, and guys like Honky Tonk Man noticed. They saw what was being left behind, and they mourned it even while participating in the new era. For Brown, that Olympic medal should have opened every door, should have guaranteed respect and opportunity, but it didn't because the business was changing, and not always for the better. Number 7, the Dynamite Kid. Dynamite Kid represents the dark side of toughness, the reckless side, the side that hurts people without caring, without apology. Honky Tonk Man and Dynamite both came through Stampede Wrestling. They shared that rough, territorial background, but Dynamite was different. He was notoriously stiff. He hurt his opponents on purpose. He used his skill not to protect people, but to punish them. Dynamite had a famous backstage fight with Jacques Rougeau. Rougeau eventually hit him with a roll of quarters, knocked some of his teeth out. That incident shows how dangerous locker room politics could get. But it also shows that even someone as tough as Dynamite could be hurt if you caught him off guard. There was also an incident involving Harley Race. Someone made a threat about Race. Maybe it was Dynamite, maybe it wasn't. But the whole situation created tension, created fear, because Race wasn't someone you threatened. And if Dynamite was involved, it meant two of the most dangerous men in wrestling might have a problem. Honky Tonk Man avoided pushing Dynamite's buttons. He knew better. Dynamite wasn't stable, wasn't predictable. He might let something slide, or he might explode. And if he exploded, someone got hurt. That's the worst kind of tough guy to work with. The ones who blur the line between work and shoot. The ones who might decide to really hurt you in the middle of a match. Dynamite had the skills to do real damage. Amateur wrestling background, years of experience, and a mean streak a mile wide. His style injured people. He didn't care if his moves were too dangerous. Didn't care if he left his opponents hurting. That was part of his reputation, part of what made him feared, but it also made him hated. Because there's a code in wrestling. You're supposed to protect each other. Dynamite broke that code regularly. For Honky Tonk Man, Dynamite represented chaos, represented the risk that any match could go wrong, that any disagreement could become physical. And in a business built on cooperation, that chaos was terrifying. Number 6, Randy Savage. Randy Savage is the name that defined Honky Tonk Man's championship reign. They were locked in a legendary feud for the Intercontinental title. And according to Honky Tonk Man, Savage hit harder than anyone else. Savage worked stiff. That's the wrestling term for working with too much force, not protecting your opponent enough, making the fake punches feel a little too real. And Savage's stiffness wasn't accidental. It was intentional. He believed in physical realism. He wanted every match to look and feel genuine. For Honky Tonk Man, that meant pain, lots of pain. Night after night, town after town, every time they wrestled, Savage would hit him so hard. The impact was real, the bruises were real, the exhaustion was real. But here's the thing, Savage's stiffness was necessary. Honky Tonk Man's character only worked if people believed he was in danger. If Savage came across as soft, if his offense looked weak, the whole angle fell apart. So Savage hit hard. He made it hurt. He made audiences believe he could destroy the champion. That's professional toughness, committing to the bit even when it means taking and giving real punishment. Savage never half-stepped. He never took it easy. He demanded perfection from himself and everyone around him. And that demand came with a physical cost. Honky Tonk Man eventually refused to lose the title to Savage cleanly. That decision tells you everything. It shows how serious their rivalry had become, how much physical intensity was involved, how high the stakes were. Savage wanted the belt. He wanted to prove he was the best, and he was willing to hurt people to make that point. The feud lasted months, and every single match was exhausting. Savage brought everything he had. His high-flying style, his precision, his willingness to take risks, but most importantly, his willingness to make it hurt, to make it real. For Honky Tonk Man, surviving that program meant surviving Randy Savage, and surviving Randy Savage meant taking a beating night after night. That's why Savage makes this list, not because he was the scariest backstage, but because working with him was genuinely painful, and that pain was part of the job. Number 5, Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake Roberts' inclusion is cemented by one of the most defining moments of Honky Tonk Man's career, the infamous guitar shot. During their feud, Honky Tonk Man smashed a real, non-gimmick $500 guitar over Roberts' head. This wasn't a prop made to break easily. This was a genuine instrument, and Honky Tonk Man swung it with full force. Roberts went into shock immediately. His body shut down. He collapsed. And the injury he sustained that night required multiple neck surgeries later in his career. Roberts himself called it his worst injury, the one that started his spiral into painkillers, the one that changed everything. But here's what makes Roberts tough. He kept wrestling, he finished the feud, he continued his career for years afterward. He took that kind of punishment, that kind of genuine injury, and he worked through it. That's not character. That's not acting. That's real durability. Honky Tonk Man tells this story often, and every time he tells it, there's something in his voice, something like respect, maybe even guilt. He knows he hurt Roberts. He knows that injury had consequences, but he also knows Roberts proved something that night, proved he could take the worst and keep going. That's in-ring toughness. That's the ability to absorb real damage and not quit. Roberts could have sued. He could have made a huge problem for the company. He could have ended Honky Tonk Man's career, but he didn't. He took it, he recovered, and he came back. For a heel who depended on not actually hurting people, this moment stood out. This was the time the line between performance and reality blurred, and Roberts paid the price. But he paid it without complaining, without backing down. That earned him a permanent place on any list of tough wrestlers. The guitar shot became legendary because it was real, because everyone watching knew something went wrong, and because Roberts didn't let it break him. Number 4, Dr. D. David Schultz. Dr. D. David Schultz embodies a more volatile, unpredictable form of toughness. Honky Tonk Man's earliest WWF career was preceded by time in Stampede Wrestling, where he worked with Schultz. This shared territorial background provided Honky Tonk Man with first-hand experience of Schultz's unstable and dangerous nature. Schultz is infamously known for the real-life physical altercation where he slapped 2020 reporter John Stossel. That event demonstrated his tendency to break kayfabe rules with genuine violence. It wasn't wasn't part of the show, it wasn't planned, it was real violence, and it effectively ended Schultz's career in mainstream wrestling. But it also proved what everyone in the locker room already knew. Schultz was legitimately dangerous. Honky Tonk Man's time with him in Stampede gave him first-hand knowledge of that danger. Stampede was rough, it was a testing ground, and in that environment, Schultz fit right in. He brought volatility, he brought genuine aggression, he brought the constant threat that things might go too far. That's a special kind of tough. It's not about winning fights, it's about being willing to have them, it's about not caring about consequences. Schultz would break the unwritten rules. He'd go too far, he'd cross lines that other wrestlers respected, and that made him terrifying. For someone like Honky Tonk Man, whose success depended on carefully managing his image and his relationships, Schultz was a wild card. You couldn't predict him, you couldn't control him. All you could do was stay out of his way and hope he didn't decide you were a problem. The smart wrestlers gave Schultz space. They didn't joke with him, they didn't test him, they treated him like a loaded gun, because that's what he was, always ready to go off. Schultz represents uncontrolled aggression, a genuine threat in any locker room scenario. Honky Tonk Man's tenure alongside Schultz in the gritty Stampede environment exposed him to the kind of reality-based toughness that was rare, even in the professional ranks. Number 3, Paul Orndorff. Paul Orndorff's place on this list is secured by his athletic pedigree and his documented willingness to engage in real conflicts. Before wrestling, Orndorff was a legitimate NCAA football athlete and a draft pick of the New Orleans Saints. His physical background made him inherently credible. Honky Tonk Man was familiar with Orndorff, having wrestled him during his post-WWF independent circuit run, so he knew firsthand what kind of man Orndorff really was. He saw up close the combination of politeness and explosive potential that made Orndorff so dangerous. But it's the backstage story that seals Orndorff's reputation. The one about Vader. Vader was massive, over 400 pounds of muscle and meanness. Vader worked stiff. Vader hurt people. Vader had a reputation as one of the most dangerous men in wrestling, and Paul Orndorff knocked him out cold with one punch. One punch, that's all it took. An uppercut that put Vader on the floor, unconscious, in front of witnesses. This wasn't a wrestling move. This wasn't planned. This was Paul Orndorff proving that his background wasn't just for show. He could actually fight, and he could beat someone twice his size. Honky Tonk Man respected that kind of legitimacy. Orndorff didn't talk tough. He didn't need to brag. He just was tough. And if you pushed him, he'd show you exactly how tough. That's dangerous. That's the kind of man you avoid problems with. What makes it worse is that Orndorff seemed so polite, so professional. He'd shake your hand, he'd be friendly, but underneath that friendly surface was someone capable of explosive violence. And you never knew when you might cross the line. You never knew when the nice guy would stop being nice. For Honky Tonk Man, working with Orndorff meant being careful, watching your words, making sure you didn't accidentally offend him. Because if you did, there wouldn't be a warning. There wouldn't be a second chance. There'd just be consequences. And those consequences, as Vader learned, came fast and hard. This incident confirms Orndorff as a true shoot fighter, whose power and willingness to use it in non-scripted scenarios earned him immense professional respect from his peers, including Honky Tonk Man. Number 2, Harley Race. Harley Race's toughness is etched into the very foundation of the industry. His legitimacy was proven not only by his 8 NWA World Heavyweight Championship reigns, but also by his sheer physical resilience, having survived polio, cancer, and a near-fatal car crash. He was a man capable of extreme intimidation. Bobby Heenan once said something interesting. He claimed Andre the Giant only feared 2 men. One was Mung, the other was Harley Race. Think about that. Andre was 7 feet 4 inches tall. He weighed over 500 pounds. He was a giant, and even he knew better than to mess with Race. Race looked the part. His voice was gruff. His face was hard. Years of real matches had left their mark. When he walked into a room, younger wrestlers straightened up. They watched their words. They showed respect. Because Race came from a time when disrespect got you stretched in the ring, and Race knew how to stretch people. His body told stories. Every scar, every injury, every close call just made him harder, made him meaner, made him someone you didn't want to cross. Race wasn't just physically tough. He carried authority from the old-school NWA into the WWF, and that authority commanded immediate respect. Honky Tonk Man witnessed Race's power firsthand. There was an incident involving Dynamite Kid. Someone made a comment, made a threat about Race, and suddenly the whole mood changed. People got quiet, people got nervous, because they knew if Race decided to do something about it, nobody could stop him. That's psychological toughness. That's the kind of intimidation that doesn't require violence. Race rarely had to prove himself because everyone already knew. They'd heard the stories, they'd seen the scars. They understood that this man had fought through hell multiple times and came out stronger. You don't challenge someone like that unless you're ready to lose. For a heel champion trying to protect his spot, Race represented old school justice. If Honky Tonk Man stepped too far out of line, if he disrespected the wrong person or broke the wrong rule, Race was the kind of man who might teach him a lesson, and that lesson would hurt. Race's presence alone was often enough to de-escalate confrontations, making him a dominant psychological force. His name carried weight across every territory in America, and Honky Tonk Man understood that weight better than most. Number 1. Haku. At the very top sits a man whose name brings silence to any locker room conversation. Haku. Some call him Mung, some call him King Tonga. It doesn't matter what name you use. Everyone knows who you're talking about. And everyone agrees on one thing. He's the toughest man who ever lived in professional wrestling. This isn't just Honky Tonk Man's opinion. This is universal consensus. Every wrestler from that era tells the same stories. Every interview ends the same way. When someone asks who the toughest guy was, the answer's always Haku. No debate, no second place. Just Haku. Other wrestlers have tried to explain it. Arn Anderson once said Haku wasn't just tough, he was on a different level. There are tough men, there are wrestler tough men, and then there's Haku. He existed in his own category, a category where normal rules didn't apply. For Honky Tonk Man, a guy who relied on tricks and escaping danger, Haku represented something terrifying. He represented reality. You couldn't work Haku. You couldn't fool him. You couldn't run from him. If Haku wanted to hurt you, you got hurt. Simple as that. And everyone knew. The building knew it. The stories about Haku are legendary. Bar fights where he took on multiple people, incidents where he removed someone's eye, times when he bit through solid objects just to prove a point. These aren't exaggerations. These are documented events that other wrestlers witnessed, and they all add up to the same conclusion. Don't make Haku angry. What made Haku different was how calm he stayed. He didn't need to yell or threaten. He didn't need to show off. He just existed, and his existence was enough to keep order. If there was a problem in the locker room, sometimes all it took was Haku standing up. The problem solved itself real quick. For someone like Honky Tonk Man, whose character depended on avoiding confrontation, Haku was the ultimate nightmare. He was the living proof that wrestling had consequences, that behind all the fake punches and planned outcomes, there were still men who could destroy you, and Haku could destroy anyone. Haku represents the gold standard of real-world physical dominance. His toughness is the unassailable baseline, and Honky Tonk Man's inclusion of him is less a personal opinion and more an acknowledgement of a non-negotiable professional fact that every wrestler, regardless of size or stature, respected. For a character like Honky Tonk Man, who relied on illusion and avoidance, Haku represented the absolute existential threat of verifiable reality. He was the final boss of real-life toughness, the man even Andre feared. So here we are, 10 names, 10 men who made Honky Tonk Man nervous, 10 men who could really fight, 10 men whose toughness wasn't an act. Look at this list carefully. It's not random. It's not about who was popular. It's about who had real power in the locker room, who commanded respect through legitimate ability, who could back up their reputation if challenged. At the top, you have pure fighters, Haku, Race, Orndorff, Schultz, men whose ability to hurt people was never in doubt, men who had actually done it, men whose reputations were built on documented violence. In the middle, you have the stiff workers, Roberts, Savage, Dynamite Kid, men who proved their toughness in the ring, who took punishment and kept going, who hit hard and didn't apologize, who made their opponents earn every dollar. And mixed throughout, you have the legitimate athletes, Brown, Williams, Andre, men whose toughness came from verified sporting achievement or physical dominance, from Olympic medals and collegiate championships in sheer overwhelming size, from proving themselves in real competition before wrestling ever entered the picture. This list is a map of how power really worked in 1980s wrestling. The WWF was selling spectacle, bright lights, big personalities. But underneath all that show business, there were still real hierarchies, still real consequences, still men who could hurt you if you stepped out of line. Honky Tonk Man survived by understanding this, by knowing who to avoid, who to respect, who to never cross. His cowardly character wasn't just an act, it was survival instinct. Because surrounded by these men, playing tough would have been suicide. They would have tested him, and he would have failed. So he played the opposite. He ran, he cheated, he hid. And in doing so, he made them look more dangerous, made audiences believe they could destroy him, made his title reign work. But the cost was living with constant fear, constant awareness that one wrong move might end badly. That's the dark reality of his success. Every night, he was surrounded by men who could hurt him, men who might hurt him, men whose respect he needed to earn and keep. And the only way to do that was acknowledge their power, give them their due, stay in his lane. This list isn't celebration, it's confession. Honky Tonk Man isn't praising these men. He's admitting he feared them, admitting they had power over him, admitting that all his success, all his fame, all his record-setting title reign happened because these men allowed it to happen. If Haku had wanted to hurt him, he couldn't have stopped it. If Race had decided to teach him a lesson, he'd have learned it. If Savage or Dynamite had gone too far in a match, what could he do? Nothing. Just take it and hope it ended soon. That's the truth behind the spectacle, behind the entertainment, behind the show. There were real hierarchies, real power, real danger, and Honky Tonk Man lived in that world for years, navigated it successfully, but never forgot who really had control. His shoot interviews reveal this tension. He's honest about who scared him, who he respected, who he knew could destroy his career or his body if they chose. That honesty is rare. Most wrestlers protect the business even in retirement, but not Honky Tonk Man. He tells it straight, and what he tells us is this: wrestling was never just a show. Not when men like these were in the room. The gimmicks were fake, the outcomes were predetermined, but the people were real. Their abilities were real. Their violence was real. Honky Tonk Man played a coward and became a legend. But the men he talks about didn't need to play anything. They were tough, genuinely, legitimately, dangerously tough, and everyone knew it. That's why this list matters, because it strips away the performance, shows us who really had power, who really commanded respect, who you really didn't want to cross. And it does so from the perspective of someone who had to live with these men, work with them, survive them. Honky Tonk Man didn't name the toughest wrestlers as a fan exercise. He named the ones he hoped he'd never cross, the ones who made him careful, the ones who reminded him that behind all the show business, wrestling could still hurt, could still be dangerous, could still destroy you if you forgot what it really was. And that's the truth he's been trying to tell us all along.